Hello, in this lesson, I want you to solve equations for a given variable. I want you to use formulas to solve for real-world problems. Some vocabulary words you're going to come across are literal equations, dimensional analysis, and unit analysis. First, a literal equation is nothing more than an equation that has more than one letter. It comes from the Greek word liter, which means letter. So when we follow to the letter, that's what literal comes from. When we solve an equation for a letter, it's kind of not quite the way you would think of when you solve. We're going to rearrange the equation. We're not going to really solve for anything. You're just going to get the letter by itself. You're not going to make the problem simpler. In fact, it might look more complex. If we take a look at example 1 here, I want you to solve for m. So I want you to get m by itself. So what I suggest is highlight that m. Don't move the m. That's the one we're going to leave alone. Now we're going to use inverse operations, so we're not doing anything new. The only difference is we don't have any numbers to combine. So undo addition and subtraction first. So I look at it and I see I'm going to subtract 3n, so I'm going to add 3n to both sides first. Notice there's no n on the 8, so I can't combine them. So it's 4m equals 8 plus 3n. Then when you divide by 4 to both sides, because you want to get m by itself, and notice I said both sides, so divide the entire side by 4. So m equals 8 plus 3n over 4, you're done. Now, there's other ways to write this problem, but I like this one. I would just leave it like this. But let me show you what it also might look like. You could write it with a common denominator. So instead of saying 8 plus 3n all over 4, I'll say 8 over 4 plus 3n over 4. And notice 8 divided by 4 is 2. So an alternate correct equation would be 2 plus 3n over 4. They are both correct. Either way is fine. Okay, let's take a look at example 2. Now, a little bit more complicated. We want to solve for x on example 2. Notice there's an x on both sides of the equation. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get all the x's on one side. I want to make sure I'm going to put everything on the left side on this problem, although it doesn't matter. So I'm going to subtract xz from both sides. And there's a z on the x, so I can't combine them. So then we get 3x minus xz minus 2y equals 5. Then we want to get rid of this minus 2y because addition and subtraction. So I'm going to add 2y to both sides. I'll bring down the left side, so I get 3x minus xz equals 5 plus 2y. Then I want to get my x by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor this. We're going to undistribute it. That is, I notice there's an x in both terms, so I'm going to put my x outside the parentheses. So x times what gives us 3x? Well, that would be 3. Minus x times what gives us xz? Well, that would be z. So we're factoring it. Now I want to get x by itself. I'm multiplying the parentheses times x. So the opposite of multiplying, I'm going to divide both sides by the parentheses. So then x equals 5 plus 2y all over 3 minus z. And we're done with that problem. Okay, here's an example of a literal equation I talked about before. It just means you're solving for the variable, solving for a letter.